So today's topic is going to be around content that converts, turning your viewers into customers on TikTok, right? Your views into sales, not just having people randomly see things or randomly like stuff. You know, um, it's easy to get views. And a lot of people think, no, it's not. I'm stuck in the 200 zone or things like that. It really isn't hard. It's what's hard is when you overthink the process. That's number one. And number two is when you make things so generic that the algorithm has no idea how to categorize your video because that's what's happening in the background. So before we get into all those details, um, a lot of people are always thinking that views and the amount of views equals cash all the time, and that's not the case, right? So I'm a perfect example of that. You guys could easily go view the views that I have on my videos. I probably have 5 of them that are have over 30 to 40,000 views, but a good majority of them have 3 to 800 views. And while that might seem like low, I'm still generating sales, right? And so that's where the biggest part makes a big difference. Hi, Angela. Welcome in. Hey, Darla. Welcome in. Yay, I'm so excited. We got more people. So I just kicked off the conversation on turning your views into sales. And I talked a little bit about how, you know, a lot of people talk about getting views and how easy it is or how hard it can be, and they don't realize that it's not it honestly isn't the views that are the issue. It's the quality of the view, number 1, and number 2, going into your actual content. Is it confusing people? Are you actually delivering the message to your target audience, to the people who need to see it, right? So I was using myself as an example. I had originally kicked off my TikTok account back when I first launched Chibi Charms. I didn't do anything with it for almost 2 years. And then I decided at the end of last year that I was going to kick it off again. I didn't sit there and invest any money into it. The only thing I invested was my time. And so what I did was I kicked off again, this time making my content have a purpose, right? I knew who I was targeting, I knew who I wanted to talk to. I knew who I intended to work with. And I think that's a lot of the hang up when you're a bead crafter, because when you're trying to sell what you have, initially you go into this just like you did when you decided to start buying inventory. Oh, if I buy this, somebody's going to want it, right? But you don't have your buyer in mind as to who exactly it is that you are going to sell to. So for you, it's just anyone. And the problem with doing that is that you don't have a clear picture of who you're talking to. So you're just putting out general statements instead of making videos and content when it comes to your designs, right? So if I wanted to sell this pen and I wanted to put my focus on it, if I'm just talking about it in general, like, oh, look at this cute pen that I made, the algorithm is our first viewer, right? That is the first line of defense when it comes to any social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, it doesn't matter which one it is. There is someone watching it, and that initial watcher is a computer bot. And that bot's job is to go, okay, who is this video intended for? Who is going to watch it? Who's going to want to watch it? Who do we send it to? Let's send it out to a test group of people. And so what it does is it sends out your video to a test group of 100, 200 people. And the views that you get and the quality of the view matters, because that lets the algorithm know, okay, this video is interesting to people. They're staying watching longer, or they're interacting with it. So there's something here. All right, what do these people have in common? And how can I get more people that meet these profile requirements to also watch this video. And this is not just TikTok, this is quite literally all of the different social media platforms. And then depending on the platform itself and what they want to push out is whether or not your content is going to get any views at all, right? So with me putting my pen out there and putting a general statement, the algorithm is going to try to guess at this point what I'm doing. Okay, she's got something that looks like a pen. I think she mentioned that in her video, right? And that's if I'm even showing my face and showing the products. A lot of times bead crafters don't want to be in front of the camera showing their face, right? I know I started off that way. I was just like, I don't really, I want to keep my anonymity. I have my full-time job. I don't need to be mixing, my persona with, who I have to be out in public, because I do travel. I do go and present in front of various communities all across the country. So I'm like, do I really want to be that person that goes, oh, hey, I saw you crafting. Do you do crafting as well as, And so I didn't want there to be any confusion, right? What I teach you on site at a community is what I teach you on site at a community. And what I teach, or I show off on my business is what I show off in my business. And so when you're showing these products, are you talking about it in such a way that if someone saw it and they never seen a bead pen before, that they would understand that it is a writing instrument, that it is a character design, that it is specifically for people who love Disney, right? And if you're not doing that, then you're not going to get the sales or the quality of views that you need to make a sale. And so when I started on, doing the faceless, and I was using like the AI video creation tools that TikTok had, it wasn't going well. And at that point I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna put this to the side. I'm not even gonna worry about this. And I went into selling on sites like Whatnot, right? Where I could still keep my anonymity. I didn't have to show my face. I had my hands, I had my personality that came through when I would talk. And then I had my product. So I would sell, like I started off selling bead collections, right? And so it worked out great. Fantastic. Would that be done in hashtags or in our verbiage? It's going to be in your verbiage, and I'll get into all of the hashtag part here shortly. So when you're going into, so I went in and I started doing the Whatnot stuff, and so that went great, and everybody was just like, "Oh my God, you know a lot about stuff, crafting and ideas and stuff." And so that's funny enough where my Bead and Build live shows kicked off. I decided, I was like, okay, if you guys really want to learn how I create these designs and how I do this, I'll do a class. I don't care. And I did. And Whatnot's platform is not intended for that by any means. Like, it's supposed to be sales, 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 sales. But when I tell you I had like a huge showing of bead designers come to my show, I didn't have to pay for promotions. I didn't have to pay for anything. I had people quite literally sharing the show going, oh my God, when are you having the next Bead and Build Live? At that point, I knew I had something. And that was my prototype show. And I talked to you guys a lot about prototyping your products and getting the messages out there first before you sit there and invest a ton of money in building like an entire collection. But that's what made me realize that a lot of people were getting into this business and trying to create a business out of it without knowing how to talk about it, how to really sell, how to differentiate themselves from another bead designer or a bead crafter. And so then I said, you know what, I have to revamp everything. I need to do this and focus it on teaching the foundational skills of just even business in general, in order to go, okay, let's stop overthinking the process of how being a bead crafter works and selling your product is, when realistically we can look at every example from every business that exists, right? And Darla, you and I talked a little bit about that last week when we went into looking at all of the facets that are, in every business that's well known out there, that has a name out there for themselves, like Pandora, right? Like, Target, like any of these major businesses that are out there. Now they're like big box stores, and I get that. But guess what? You can pick those models like Hermes, any of those brands, and quite literally duplicate it in your business, and you don't have to overthink the process. So, what we're going to talk about today and really get into is how to shift your mindset, number one, from I need 50,000 to 100,000 views to get a sale from a video, when the focus is making sure that your video even relates to who you're trying to target and talk to. And the content itself, even if you don't get a ton of views, it's the quality of that content that's going to get you the quality of your customers who are going to want to buy from you, right? Um, that's going to be the biggest aspect, because you can have thousands of people look at your video, you can have hundreds of people like your content, but if no one's commenting, if no one's, going to your website, buying your products, you're just basically entertainment at that point. So you're going to have we're going to talk a little bit about your target markets, right? Because I feel like I'm always talking about this, but I still feel like a lot of people are not understanding that process of the target market, right? And here on Substack, I actually have two different articles altogether around target markets. Number one is the one that says these are the hot target markets that you could go after. These are the details of how to target them. And this is how you can build your signature design series and target these people. The other one was based on your personality and taking that free personality test and trying to find a target market that works best with your personality. Even if you have multiple categories that you hit, pick the two strongest ones that you have and then find the target market that's matched up with that so that you can focus your inventory and selling it there. That's going to be number one. It's going to be trying to figure out who your target market is. And I don't make it hard for you to figure it out. I think the hardest part is going, okay, I have this as a target market and I really want this, but I bought like all this stuff and it doesn't match that target market. So first things first, and I'll ask both of you this question since you're here. The inventory that you have, do you feel that your current inventory matches the target market that you want to go after? And have you identified your target market? Okay, so Darla, you mentioned that you believe so. So can you share with me who you feel your target market is? And you have tons of everything, and that's okay. So while you're responding to me, and Angela, if you can participate as well, let me know. Have you identified your target market yet? And do you feel like your inventory works with your target market? So Darla, if you feel like you have a ton of stuff, but you're still trying to figure out how to best work it with your target market, this is where that organizational piece is going to come in handy. And remember, I don't want you focused on like the supplemental products, right? Uh, the base pen colors, I don't care about that. The standard beads that yeah, they might have, some minor designs. That's not important. What I want is like the main pieces. So like here, my main piece would be my Hello Kitty shaker. On this one, it would be my Labubu felt bead topper. Those are the designs, right? The things that have characters, the things that have themes, the bigger collection-esque type products, right? So if we focus on just that, not the noise, and I'm calling all that other stuff noise. And the reason it's noise is because once you find your target market and who you're going to go after, and if your products, if we can turn them into such a way that you can in fact go after this target market with what you already have, the supplemental stuff, the noise will fit into place once we have that target market, because now we can say, okay, I can turn, you know, if I have the pink line, oh, that's where my little pink ombre pen can come in handy. So that's um okay, so Darla says, I feel I'm leaning towards a certain style, more luxury designer pens. Maybe I'm off, not necessarily a character, but a certain type. Now, do you have the inventory to support that? So if you decided you wanted to do a luxury series, right? And by luxury, I'm talking about, we have Dior, Chanel, Tiffany, like those kind of brands, if you're doing a brand type collection, or fancy purse, fancy, like the bling purses, the bling um, perfume bottles. Yeah, okay, okay. And you do have the inventory. Perfect. Okay. And that's the one you have the majority of, correct? Like, is that one where, like, if you needed to do, multiple collection releases, you have more than enough. You don't have to go buy more. Okay, perfect. Perfect. So that's how you start it, right? So you're already on the right track. You start with what you have the most of. And there's nothing saying, Darla, that you can't, after you're sold out of all this inventory, if you decided you didn't want to do this anymore and you wanted to go into some, a different target market because it aligns more with what you want to do, you can do that, right? But now that you have an idea and you have that foundation of, okay, I want to do luxury, I want to do, like, I'm envisioning, based off of what you're saying, almost like Bridgerton, almost like that period drama, luxury, right? Where you have like the cherub angels, or like, when I showed, like, the ones that I showed you guys, like, um English, like English period pieces and things like that. Yeah, perfect, perfect. So that is huge. That's a huge target market. There are a lot of people who are interested in that. There's different, what they call cores, right? Um, that they have for these types of genres. Yeah, so there's like cottage core, and there's like a bunch of different types of core bases of people that love, the different types of collections. Well, guess what? If that's what you want to, if that's where you what you have the majority of, and that's where you can start without having to buy a ton of stuff, that's where you need to start, right? So now that you have a picture and a vision of, okay, these are the designs I want to start with, now you get into creating that first collection. So what would be the first collection? And I'm not asking you to answer this right now, but let's say I sold 7 years vintage inspired. Perfect. Look at that. Look at that. So you have experience in it, right? This is, so this genre is not new to you. This target market isn't new to you. It's in a different format, probably, right? It's, you used to do jewelry. Now you're going to be doing more functional items. You're going to be doing pens and keychains, and probably like the cup wraps and things like that. So uh, in that aspect, it's just another industry, or another market that is aligned with a previous experience that you had. So exactly. So different format, same style. Exactly. So perfect. So you've got the hardest part figured out. That is quite honestly the hardest part, is figuring out who you're going to go after, and the theme, right? What am I going to sell? So you've got that cottage, English cottage, vintage, design, luxury vintage. I'll call it luxury vintage at this point, or vintage luxury. So that is not unheard of, right? Look at the droves of people that absolutely love Bridgerton, that absolutely love Downton Abbey, that absolutely love all of the period dramas. Like, for me, Outlander, I love Outlander. There's so many things that you can play off of, and it doesn't have to be specific to an actual TV show, right? It can be very much that luxury vintage design and creating a collection from it, something that people are going to want to continue collecting from you. So, your next step isn't going to be creating a ton of videos and a ton of content just yet. It's going to be focusing on your prototype. So, now that you identified who you're going to sell to and the style, what does that look like? Right? So that's going to be the next step is, do you sell it to them in a collection, right? Cuz to me that's what I see it as from, for that kind of for that, excuse me, that genre and that target market, they love having a collection. So if I was selling to that market, I would look at it from a um, luxury series collection set. So if you have the cup, yeah, there you go. Like a cup, the keychain, and the pen, or I've seen a lot of people like they have like those. Oh God, I don't have one on me here, but like for me, like a little makeup bag or kind of like a little wallet or something. Actually, wait a minute, I do have some that I had gotten. I told you I pulled out all my stuff. So like I had gotten, sorry for the noise if it's coming through the mic, but so I had gotten these cutesy little, they're like little purses that you can create. So like you got to put them together, right? And like you do like, forgot how it goes. It's like something like this, and I don't know. You kind of put them together and it turns into like this cutesy little purse thing that then you can put something inside, and it has like the little chiffon type um thingy. So things like that, and putting it in a collection set and putting it in a box and laying it in there in such a way that it's like they get it and it's like their collection piece, that would hit hard with that target market. And like I mentioned, ChatGPT is an amazing resource to help you name your collection. So, like, if you have an idea, you could just describe to it, okay, I have, for this first collection, it's going to include this and this and this item, right? Or you can start the collection small. You can do like a 2-piece, a 3-piece, and then the deluxe, right? Things like that. When it comes to collections, it's always great to give them 3 options. You have the one that you have the most common amount of. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and they're available, right? So that's the great part. So if there is an extra little item that you can use to get you to that next step, that's fantastic. But nothing that would require you to spend yet another set of hundreds of dollars to do it, right? But for your collection, and by the way, don't create a ton of these. You're creating a prototype of your collection, just that first one that you would launch, right? So let's say you're doing something very a la Bridgerton, where you've got the florals and you've got, you know, um, maybe something with pearls or something with like the ruffles, that kind of designs set. And you've got like the pink and the pastel pinks and the greens, the purples, like those kind of color schemes and things like that. Perfect. Beautiful. Okay, so your first prototype, you can have it as a one-off series collection where it's like, that's the collection and I only have 5 of these and I'm done. And then it moves on to the next collection. Or if you have so much of it that you're going to still have leftovers for the rest of your collection, because you're going to want to continue your collection just until you get to the point where if you don't want to do this anymore, you can just sell off what you have. But if you want to continue it, that's fine. That means you have that target market, like you found your niche. So color options, same idea. Okay, perfect. So when you're creating it, just create the only one color. And the only reason I'm saying this is because now your next step is, after you create that prototype, and if you're happy with it, feel free to send me pictures. If there's anything I can that I can help provide feedback on. If you want, like my opinion or my feedback, great. If not, don't worry about it. I want to make sure that you at least feel like you have you can bounce the designs off of someone else. I know sometimes we're overcritical of ourselves, or there's something that we're not seeing because we're like right there in front of the yes, okay. Sounds good. Um, but you guys are welcome to do that. Like if you want to have someone else that you could bounce the design idea from, by all means send it to me. I do not share your protected work. That's yours. I just want to let you know, like, hey, or hey, did you think about doing this, or did you want to add this, or I think this could make it pop. So I have no issues giving you guys feedback on those kind of things. Or it's perfect, launch it as is. Um, so once you have your prototype in place and you're super happy with it, and that's what you want, you're going to need to start working on your marketing materials. So taking pictures of it. I use a tool called Canva. I know it should be something that's very well known, but if you guys don't know it, it is a great, great, easy to use tool to help you with your marketing pictures, and just the pictures that you need when you're setting up your website, when you're setting up the base pictures, if you end up doing like a photo collage on TikTok, or when you want to post on Instagram and you want to have like a picture itself. Like it's a great tool for your graphics. As far as videos go, funny enough, you can use um you know TikTok to create videos. It has obviously like the recording feature. Editing on those, it's not as hard as people think it is. I used to, for me being someone who's very technical, I used to shy away from it because I felt like there were so many options. Um, oh, okay. All right, so we'll dive into that. But once you have at least your marketing pieces in place and you've taken all your pictures, that's where you make sure you add the prototype to your design, or excuse me, to your website. And then you start recording different videos. This is where tools like ChatGPT can help. You can give it your idea and say, okay, this is what I have. This is, the design and the format of the design. Like I have a pen, I have a keychain, I have say like a little purse. Um, I need help giving it a name that meets this aesthetic and this target market. My marketing content, like the wording that comes out for my video, I need it specifically to target this market. What's the content that I can use and say in short format videos and long form? So there's two types. There's long form and short form. So you want your shorter videos for the people who have the shorter attention spans, and the longer ones that go into showing you writing with it and using, the pen and popping it into your cute purse, or using the whole collection as one, and that's your longer form videos. So it will give you um a great outline that you can work through. And if you don't want to talk in your videos, and if you don't want to show your face in your videos, that's fine. At least have your hands um to be able to showcase the product. I know a lot of people, like, if aesthetics are everything, right? When it comes to showcasing your product. So anything that you can do in the background that matches that target market would be fantastic. So for me, I have, like, I don't know if you can see them back there, like those little plants, those little fake plants in the little jars, and having that, and then maybe having some like Victorian era paper, like things like that in the background. Having a oh god, what's that called? Like a little not tray, but actually, yeah, like a tray, like maybe a ceramic tray that looks all elegant and fancy, and then that's where you put your items on, that kind of thing. So even the video content itself and your pictures should portray the aesthetic of your target market, not just your collection, right? And this is why we're diving into this, the things that are not only going to get the views, but your marketing that's going to get you the sale. So not only are you going to need to have your product aimed towards that market, but all your marketing materials and the aesthetics of it have to match. It has to go with that theme. I actually had bought actually I'm gonna step away for a second because I want to show this to you. I got this at Ross and Marshalls, like all of those little mini chain stores that have like all of those plates and stuff are fantastic. Um, to be able to show that kind of stuff because it has that aesthetic. So give me a second. I'm gonna show you. Here we go. So I got these for, during Easter, but it's like the fancy cake plate, right? Having something like this where you can put your designs and your stuff on it for those up close pictures would be fantastic. Um, Having, like a little tray with, like the tea aesthetic, right? Because it's that style, that format. So that would be huge for that. But things like that go a long way. So now once you have your marketing pieces and everything, as far as the website goes, I will always recommend hands down Shopify. Now, I know right now there are like horror stories happening with Shopify, and I can't speak to what they do or what they did to get to that point. I know for myself, I come from perfect. uh, Vintage pieces, yes, exactly. That's going to go with that aesthetic. Um, so Shopify is the site service that I use, and to this day, I have not had any issues with it. Um, there are, and just like with any sites that you use, I have a website development background. I didn't need that in order to use Shopify, but it does help when it comes to installing different apps that go on there. Very much like your phone, you put in the wrong app, or if you install an app and don't secure your information, there are people out there that all they're looking for are the opportunities to get into accounts and hack them and do the things that they're doing. So with that, I'm saying I recommend Shopify. I don't know why those people got hacked and what happened. I have all of the authentications built in. Um, I don't leave my money inside the Shopify balance accounts because that is something that's offered when you have a Shopify account. So when you're setting all of those basic things up, the best part of Shopify is that you do get help either from their support team, but they also have an AI bot that's built in, and it's fantastic. I don't normally advocate for AI bots, but the one that they built in with Shopify is a fantastic helper. It will quite literally, in certain instances, do the task that you need it to do based on what you're asking. So almost like a working chat GPT bot, right? So not where it just tells you information. If you need something done on your site and you're like, hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? And I need to do this. It will be like, okay, give me a moment. I will do it. And it'll show you like what it's doing. But like I said, the support at Shopify has been fantastic as well. So if I have questions on how to use something, they're there to support you. What I love about their program is you start for $1 and it's $1 for 3 months. So if it takes you a month to get your site up and running and get all the details in and all your pictures and stuff like that for that initial collection you're launching, then it takes you a month, but you've used $1. Okay. Um, you don't have to go crazy getting a ton of apps and a ton of functionality. The whole point is we're proving that your prototype works. Okay. And to start with your prototype, you don't need to have your website up and running. And I know you're probably wondering, like, well, but Sasha, I want to start selling that right away. Yes and no. So the whole point is to send out teasers of your prototype because we need to validate that people want what you're selling. Not just going, okay, because Bridgerton is a thing, somebody's going to buy it, right? Because then we get back to that whole, I'm just going to throw it out there and hope somebody buys it. What you're going to want to do is take all your marketing pictures, all your videos and everything, and you're going to start with the social media that you're on the most. So if it's TikTok, you're going to start with TikTok. And you're going to start adding in your content, whether you're doing the photo collages, whether you're doing videos and adding in text. They have tons of tutorials. There's tons of YouTube videos out there that are super easy that can show you how to create your and launch your first videos so that it has not only on-screen text, but you're using captions, right? The text that reads what you're supposed to say. And if you don't want to use your own voice, that you're using the AI voices that are built in to be able to convey the message to your viewers. The message that you're going to convey is the information you're going to pull from ChatGPT, right? Because after you've worked with ChatGPT and said, this is my collection, this is what I have, help me name it. I need it to be as search engine optimized as possible. So SEO friendly. That's the wording you're going to use. I want it to be engaging. That's another big word you're going to use when you're talking to ChatGPT. I want to be able to make sure that I use keywords for my target market. Make sure you identify keywords. So all of these things that we're talking about, these are the wording. This is the wording that you're going to want to use with ChatGPT. Once you work through this with it, and it says, okay, since we're only going to start launching on TikTok, we're going to focus on video content. So this is what it's going to do. Is you're going to tell it all of this. You're going to let it know we're going to create a website and we're going to create it in the background, but I'm not sending anybody there just yet because I need to validate my design. I need to validate that the collection I'm going to push out that's coming soon, people are going to want it. Okay? And that's part of that messaging on your videos. It's coming soon. It's launching is it in a month? Is it in 2 months? Right? When do you feel comfortable that you'll have the ability to launch it based on, let's say, a small conversion of like 25 people or 10 people wanting to buy your product, right? Or do you want to base it off of the amount of inventory you have? So if you have enough to build 25 for that one collection, that's your max. So even if you have 100 people wanting to buy it, well, then they're going to have to wait for the next collection. Have them sign up for your email. Have them sign up for an email. Now, on your Shopify site, you have two options. While you're working on it on the background and getting things ready and set up, there is an email option that you can add so that it collects email addresses from people. Meaning, you're launching soon, and I did this myself. You're launching soon, so type in your email address if you want to be an insider for my business and be one of the first to be notified once we officially launch so that you can get this first collection. There is that option that is, it's not that it's automatic. There is a feature in there. And we may just go into deep diving that on these weekly calls and I'll break it down. That is probably going to end up being what I do here for April, since we have to expand and go into in-depth parts of the business side. I just don't want you waiting on me to hit that live in order for you to launch. So as you're building it, Darla, let me know. Hit me up on TikTok, on chat, or even through the Substack chat, and let me know where you are in the process, and I'll guide you as best as I can, or I'll send a resource to you so that you can continue working forward and not have to wait for me to hit that discussion topic. Right now we're doing high level overview, but if you know that the next step is to get the website, then it's going to be registering on Shopify to get your free website. All we're going to activate on the customer facing side is going to be the email entry, but for your marketing pictures, for your videos, for all of that can immediately kick off your TikTok account. That's going to be where your messaging really has to hit home. And that's why I advocate for using tools, right? Because it's a tool just like any other. I don't sit there and rely on everything for ChatGPT. We have our own brains that we can make decisions with. That is a tool. And thankfully, it is a really good tool because the people who are experts in the industry trained this tool to learn as much as it could about being a marketing expert or whatever. So as long as we're using the right information, it will deliver us what we want. And so one of the articles that I'll do just to at least help you kickstart on this, and let me write this down so I don't forget. I'm going to provide a prompt. Give me a second here. I'll provide the prompt that you need to feed into Chat GPT. So you'll open up like a new chat, and then you'll copy and paste the prompt that I give you, and it's going to ask you questions. The prompt will ask you like, what's the target market that you're going after? What's your design style? What are the items that you're selling? And so I'm going to create the prompt so that it asks you these things. Um, and so then that way, all you have to do is go in there, answer its questions. And by the time you're done answering the questions, it'll tell you, okay, this is what I recommend for your TikTok videos. Like, this is how I recommend you launching the videos. This is how many you have to put out every day. Um, I'm also, I'm gonna give me a sec. I'm going to create an article on Substack for TikTok video editing. So I will link like really good YouTube tutorials or just tutorials in general that really handhold and like kind of will break everything down step by step, because a lot of the features that you're going to want to use if you don't want to do video facing and be the one talking and showing off things, um, it's going to be essential that you know how to at least modify your text and give the text the look and feel that you want so that it matches the aesthetic you're going for. That you're going to want to know how to edit your videos, that you're going to want to know how to uh, add trending sounds, right? Sounds that come from things like Bridgerton, like, Downton Abbey, like, insert period drama here, right? Things that are popular enough that people will want to, especially it would probably be a lot more of the Bridgerton sounds. Especially like even like the little clips, like the audio clips, that's going to be a big one. And using those kind of things that are trending to your advantage and getting it in front of the people that absolutely love and would want to buy your collection because it matches their interest. So I'll do that as well. I'll create that as I'll create both of those as a Substack article. So give me through this week and I'll get it in there. But it'll have kind of like the step by step of, okay, now that you've got your prototype ready, what's the next step on the marketing to validate your collection. So we're going to talk about prototype and collection validation. And that's going to take place on social media, places where people can see your product without you having to do a craft show or anything like that. Like, this is going to be straight validation from your target market. Do they want it? If they want it, how do they get it? Right. And the getting is going to be like, okay, let's get at least an email collection going for people who are interested in your collection, and deciding when you're going to launch. The Shopify side of things, that's going to have to be a completely separate article and training, because that goes more in depth into a lot more technical stuff than we even have time for on these weekly calls. It really is. It could really be its own entire training course. But at the end of the day, if I can give you the resources that piecemeal each piece that you need to help you launch, that's going to be a lot easier and manageable. And even for you, you can, it'll be easier if it's broken down than me going, okay, let's do this 20 series course on Shopify, when you really don't need to go that far, especially since you're launching just the one product to start with, right? And then really after that, it's just rinse and repeat with your product. You don't have to have multiple collections going on at the same time. You don't have to have multiple things going on at the same time. Not until you can get to that point and it's manageable. I only ever want you guys launching one collection at a time, because not only is it manageable, for your time, right? Because some of us do have full-time jobs and stuff like that. We can't be managing 10 collections at the same time. But I also don't want it to be to the point where it's so overwhelming, you want to quit. Um, so once we test it with the market and the market wants it and they're signing up for your newsletter, it's making sure that you launch on time, you get your launch in place, and then you turn the trigger on in Shopify that activates your website so that those who are interested can go online, buy it, and God willing, it sells out. Because if you only have 25 of those and you had like 100 people who really wanted it, it's whoever the first 25 are, right? We'll go into pricing. That's going to be one of the topics for next week, where we really go and dive into pricing. For that one, I do have a pricing calculator that I told you guys about last week during TikTok that I was going to be working on, where we're going to have kind of like a calculator feature that is going to help you determine your pricing. But a good rule of thumb is to 3 to 5x whatever your cost is. So your cost has to incorporate your packaging. Like if you only sold that one item and you put it in a box or you put it in a bag, however you're going to do it. Personally, I would always say a box. But what is that final finished cost, including the time that it would take you to build one of that? And then multiply that times 3.5 to 5x. So if it costs you $5 in total to make, 3.5 to 5 times that price or that cost in order to build in a really decent margin of profit, and pays you back for your cost. And on top of that, pays you to invest additional funds into your business. So we'll dive into the calculator and all of that next week, because that'll help you as well with your collections. Now, a collection is different from launching a single product, but it's no different. You can add up the totals for your entire collection's cost and then type that information into the calculator to then determine the pricing. As you grow, you can then even break down your collections into, optional. Yeah, I know the yucky stuff. I know, Darla. I know a lot of people really don't like talking about the pricing side, because we always, I talked about that, and we look at, we look at the pricing as, well, I only spent this much. There's no way someone's going to spend this. And we talked about that, right? Starbucks doesn't spend $5 to make my $7 drink. They probably spend under $1 to, you know what I mean, to make it. But you have to factor in, right, the cost of your worth, like your time. If somebody wanted to get it that cheap, they would have made it themselves. Right? If they wanted to get something at cost that cheap, they could easily go do the same thing you're doing. Go buy the thousands of dollars worth of inventory, or go buy the hundreds of dollars worth of inventory and build it yourself, right? Good luck trying to find, every individual piece on its own. It doesn't happen. That's why my biggest thing is teaching you guys how to build your own pieces, so that it's not something someone can easily duplicate and recreate, because it's your design, it's your style, right? The more exclusive you are and that you create your products, the less people can go, oh, I could just do that myself and go buy it myself, because they realize that's a lot of work. Or, even if it took you 10 minutes to make, right? They don't know, unless they're in that business of doing it, how long it took to put the flowers and to dip it into the thing and then put the rhinestones and the little crown and then put it on. They don't know all of that. And you could have been there doing it and it took you an hour to create 25 of them, but they don't know that. And that's not for them to know, because you're the owner, you're the builder, you're the one creating it. Just because it took you 15 minutes doesn't mean that 15 minutes was, the easiest 15 minutes. It could have taken you an hour to learn how to get it down to 15 minutes, or it could have taken you 2 hours to learn how to get it down to a 15-minute process. And that's just the same even when we, with our jobs. There's a reason when we go to work for someone, and we start entry level, we don't get paid as much just because we're learning as we go. But when you're an expert and you can, dole out what you need to dole out without having to sit there and spend 8 hours worth of time, it doesn't mean you're cheaper or you're less because you can do it faster. It means you've honed your skills so much that now you're more valuable to that company because it costs more for me to do it at 8 hours, even at entry level, than it would for a 15-minute turnaround time at my higher salary. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it is. Designing just all of it. It's an art form when you look at it. When it comes to crafting, it's an art form. And at the end of the day, because it is an art form, what they're buying is your ingenuity, your creativity. That's what they're buying. If they could do it, they would do it themselves, but they're not. And when they saw your design and they fell in love with it, that's what they're wanting to buy. They're wanting to buy the convenience of getting what they want right away without having to build it themselves. So I think that's the biggest aspect of this business. It's a lot of people hate talking about the money aspect of it, but it's secondary. It is secondary to anything else. Um, I think the moment you have the clarity of who you're targeting and who you're going to market to and who you're going to sell to and what collections they are, it does become easier because you recognize your value right away. Like I'm focused now. I'm laser focused on who I want to sell to. I'm laser focused on the collections I want to release. My collections are beautiful. My collections scream luxury, and people will see that. People will recognize that. Making sure all your marketing materials match the aesthetic you're going for, that the wording, that the communication that you're putting out there, right? So when you do your TikTok videos and maybe you're not the one talking, think of it like from a Bridgerton perspective. Maybe it's an English person, talking about the luxury collection of blah 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 blah. I can't do voices, but you get the point, right? It's not you or having like a generic AI voice going, "Come get your collection today," blah blah blah. That doesn't match the aesthetic that you're going for, right? You want something where it sounds like, someone from the UK trying to sell your vintage design and look and feel, right? So all of that, and that's a lot of times people don't realize all of that has to happen as well. It's not just finding a target market. There's so many pieces. Oh yeah, Darla, hands down. If you're going to do this and do this right, it's got to match on every aspect. So I would say opt in for that English accent and make that the voice, right? Think of Bridgerton. I don't know if you've ever watched the show or not, but that is the voice that everyone recognizes. The what is it, dearest reader or dearest whatever. I have to watch the last part of this next series. So, that's the next season is what I have to watch. I have to watch the second part of the next season. But um those are the pieces that you need to connect and continue that consistency of your brand, right? So if that's your brand, that's going to be the voice of your brand. The aesthetic is going to be the visual of your brand. So it doesn't matter what collection you release, people expect that style and that design. And even your website will reflect that elegance, the luxury, right? So it's got to be across the board. That's why I make sure like I communicate that as much as possible. And I have people who message me and they're like, "Oh, look at this design and it's so pretty." And I'm like, "Well, what's your target market? Who are you targeting so that I can tell you if that design makes sense?" And they're still very much so caught up on the design aspect and not trying to figure out who they're marketing to and who they're talking to, right? That I'm not going to sit there and go, "Oh my god, it's a beautiful design." If you can't tell me who you're targeting, that design might as well be something I buy at Dollar Tree, right? It could have been the most beautiful design in the world, but if you're not telling me who you're targeting, I can't tell you if that's worth it to do it or spend your time creating an entire collection and buying more inventory for that that mystery target market. Um, so and at the end of the day, people are, everybody's an adult, right? You guys can buy and shop and do what you need to do. It is at the end of the day your money, but I'm not going to advocate for you to do that and bounce around target markets when you have an entire, you know what I mean? Like if for a lot of us, we have an entire room full of inventory already. We don't have to go get any more. So I will always advocate to finish using what you have, make use of it, and then once you find your target market and that niche, that is yours. You own it. People will expect it from you. People will continue looking at everything that you're doing and everything that you're about. I mentioned last week during the call how there's a bead crafter that her aesthetic is quite literally putting a pen together, but she uses the sound audios of the durable characters that she's using, right? And her thing is all bead toppers that are all durables. So for her durables, it's not hard because they're all Disney franchises, right? And so she has lots of bling and lots of cute stuff that she puts on her pens. And she just shows you really quick. Like, so she's already pre-prototyped the design that she wants. She already knows the beads she's going to grab. She just films it in that order. However, she like, okay, I got to make sure I grab this bead, right? And it isn't hard. It is literally all staged, right? So in that process, she already knows I'm going to grab the bead that I have in the front of that little. So when she opens the drawer, she grabs it. She knows what she's got because she's already prototyped it. She sees what colors work best. She's not just deciding that in her TikTok video. She just knows what she's going to grab. That's what's going to be put together. She uses the sound audio file from a Disney series because it matches the character pen that she's creating. And guess what? She gets hundreds of thousands of views. She has, I think, over 48,000 followers at this point. You know what I mean? And it's all because she focused her design and her niche to the Disney franchise. And she left her account as a personal account so that she could use those trending audios. And her videos are not 20 hours long. They're quite literally focused on the audio playing. It's the putting together of that pen, and then you see the pen at the end. I think one of her videos got like 2 million views, and it was like a Beetlejuice pen. So that's why I'm saying if you keep your design style to that target market, for her target market is people who love Disney, right? For you, it will be the vintage design. So all your audios, if you're only doing music, right? You can do music. And she doesn't have like audios going, oh, blah, blah, blah. It just, I think the only one that she has, or no, she has text on screen. So that's another big one, right? If we're not doing audio and you're doing captions only, make sure your captions talk about what you're doing. So like for her, she'll say like, come build a Beetlejuice pen with me. And then the audio will be playing and she'll be grabbing the thing. And then at the end, she shows it off. And then she'll say, DM me for pricing or DM me for more information or blah, 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 right? You guys can then at that point, at the call to action, that's what we call the call to action at the end of the video, is message me to get your own, like to get access to your collection today, or click the link in my profile or visit the link in my profile to be one of the first to know when the collection releases, and it'll take them to your site, which will have the sign up box for them to enter their email address. I even did this when I did my relaunch at the end of last year, right? I did a relaunch. I have, my orders and my sales here. I've sold thousands of items and not only just individual pens or anything like that. Like I've sold thousands. In half a year when I first started selling in Whatnot, I sold over $10,000 worth of merchandise. And that's not, random crap. It's literally all bead craft merchandise, from pens, from bead mixes, from packaging, from bead pen toppers. Like I started off selling actual supplies. Think of it almost like a wholesaler, but without shooting myself in the foot, because I'm not the builder, like I'm not the manufacturer of these supplies. So I sold things for a lot of money on a platform like Whatnot, right? But what I don't like about Whatnot is the fact that I constantly have to be online in order to sell. I didn't want that. I still wanted the ability to sell supplies, right? But I wanted you all to build your supplies because I saw that's what was needed in this industry. There's tons of wholesalers. I mentioned, I already showed you guys how to search for them. That's not the issue. But original designs are far and few in between. They are the most scarce resource we have as bead crafters is original designs. That's why it needs to be something that you create, especially as you move on in your collections. You can't rely, and you should never rely on other people's intellectual property, right? You can start off selling your stuff that way, but to continue on and be a super, super, super successful business, you don't want to do that, because then at the end of the day, these companies notice when you get super, super, super successful. And that's when they start cracking down on copyright infringements and IP issues, because you're using their product to create your brand. That's why I try to get away from that. Like I will showcase and show you stuff like this, but I'm not actively going out there and going, okay, yeah, let me, create an entire line of this. I can't. Because at the end of the day, if I become super successful and popular, guess who's getting a cease and desist? So, and it did happen to me once when I sold a while ago, like a long time ago. I tried to sell on Etsy, and it's so funny because I did a T-shirt. I'll tell you my personal experience. I did a T-shirt that I knew didn't exist wording wise, and I actually made I made one prototype of the T-shirt. Funny enough, I didn't sit there and print a ton of them. I only made hers and his prototype. And on the front, it said, "Ew, muggles." And on the back, it said, "Repello muggletum." So it repels muggles. So it was very much Harry Potter inspired. It said "ew" instead of "ew people." It said "ew muggles," and we loved it because my husband and I are Universal Studios annual pass holders. We absolutely love all the Harry Potter franchise, and it's fantastic, right? Well, guess what? I started getting tons of views and tons of things on Etsy. And before I could even make a sale, I got hit with copyright infringement from Warner Brothers. So Etsy immediately was like, we're pulling the listing. Like, you don't own the word muggles. And sure as shit. And I have to say it like this because it's so true. Surely enough, I looked it up and they held the trademark for the word muggles. So when I tell you, as bead crafters and seeing all these wholesale people sell all of these things that we fall in love with the characters, we are taking as a personal business a huge, huge risk selling other character IPs. But it doesn't mean we can't, right now while we're still small, we can fly under the radar and sell what we need to sell off to get into building our own. But this target market you have, Darla, is fantastic because luxury vintage, nobody owns that market. You can create your own collection from that style. You can create your look, your feel, your aesthetic to match this generic, and I call it generic, but this generalized market where it's not quote unquote Disney, where it's not quote unquote, Sanrio. It's not. So I use like I absolutely love Hello Kitty. She's my aesthetic, but I'm not actively like even my little this one here, it's the cat character, right? It could be generic enough to be a generic cat character, but I if I start styling her exactly like Hello Kitty, like I did here, and I sell it and it goes popular, I can run the risk of getting hit with, character infringements. Same thing with the character, the mouse head character, right? But it is one of those things where there's certain fine lines. I am not I'm not advertising it as Mickey Mouse. I'm not advertising it as Hello Kitty, right? So there are fine lines we have. But the moment we start using their names and stuff, like I did with Muggles, it's like a whole other, um, slippery slope that you can get into. But right now, it's not like there's no major crackdowns or anything like that. So I don't want to like just inadvertently scare you guys. I just want you to be cautious because if you end up going super viral, that's when the issues occur, right? So if you want to just use it to get rid of your inventory of all these character IPs that you got, go do that. Like Whatnot's a great place to do that if you're going to sell your pens and your designs, craft events. Um, Even the girl that I talk about, she runs a very, very risky side of it because she's using Disney characters. She's using, and durables were not intended to be created and used for bead pens, right? She's repurposing the characters and putting them on a pen to sell another product. And so people could very well mistake that as a Disney product. So that's where she could very well be hitting that slippery slope. She's not like millions of views just yet, but if she ever got to that point where a lot of her videos got millions of views instead of just one, and that wasn't even a Disney franchise, that was I think that's a Universal franchise with it's Universal because Beetlejuice is part of I believe it's part of Universal. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. So just keep those things in mind, right? I just from that perspective, I won't always be like, oh yeah, just sell every other character franchise because it's a good idea. It's not. That's why build your own, create your own. I think that luxury vintage market it's chef's kiss. It's beautiful. It's got its own built-in aesthetic and it's good. It has the bones that you need. And it's been proven to be a very popular genre. So I think that's going to be fantastic. So wrapping up today, making sure all your marketing, all your like the hook that you have in your videos, all of your messaging is clear. It's matching your aesthetic that you're going for. So from the audio that you use or the voices that you use to the background designs that you use have to match what you're going for and what you're selling. It can't be, you know, uh, let's say I wanted to do like the luxury market and I start having Hello Kitty in the background for my stuff, that would throw the messaging completely off, right? So look at the look at the big brands and how they do it. They don't ever sit there and mix their messages when it comes to showcasing, right, their products. When you go to Target and it's the summer and they're selling bathing suits, they don't have winter wear on the background, right? You see women, the men, the children frolicking on a beach and they have their bathing suits and they've got like their little shovels for the sand, right? All of it matches to what they're trying to sell and market, right? To the target market that's walking through that door. Think of it like that. When you're selling your stuff online, people are walking through your virtual store door to see what it is you have. And if it matches what they want, they're going to want it. So, okay. I hope that, today gave you guys some clarity on, when you have your messaging and you've got your videos out there and you're trying to get those views and that validation of the sale, it has to start with your branding. It has to start with your messaging. It has to start with making sure that all your materials match your target market. So that's quite literally how you validate your product lines, how you validate that your collection is going to be taken serious and people are going to want it. And that's how you validate that you have something that you can start selling. So that you can then invest more time into getting your site launched and getting the collection built out to the max number that you're going to create for that first launch. Okay. Oh, Darla, you're very welcome, sweetie. Next week, like we talked about, I'll post next week's on Substack, is going to be leveraging it's going to be about the article that I'll create, but it's going to be leveraging Chat GPT and using the prompt that I'm creating um, on how to get your marketing put together to launch on TikTok to validate your design. So it's gonna dive a little more into making sure you're working with ChatGPT correctly. So I'll screen share and everything for that one, how to use it for your marketing content creation, and then have some examples of like how I just showed you, aesthetically how to video and record and do the things that you need to do to make sure that your messaging comes across the right way. So I love you. Thank you for being here. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you. This was an awesome, awesome session. And I'm so happy to see that you're making as much progress as you're making, Darla. If you're going to go ahead and push further, once I do have this article launched, I'll make sure to let you know and text you and let you know, hey, I've just launched it. I do send it out via email, but just let you know. Thank you. All right. Have a great night. I will see you guys tomorrow. I am going to be on TikTok from 8 to 10 tomorrow and on Thursday, like normal. And we are going to do a lot more building, apart from talking about products, but I will be building some more products. The Flowers Series 2 did launch. It's already launched on the site. And I introduced some flower packs. So I have seasonal flower packs now. And they're just a smaller little bundle of mixed flowers. And they have the aesthetic of summer, spring, fall, and winter. So, yep, I did my flower collection. I'll be sending a marketing email out here shortly. I ran out of time before our call to send it out, but yes, it's the flowers are in bloom. So those are officially launched on our site, and I do have limited collections of those as well. I only have 12 of Series 2 that I launched, and there's a limited number of the seasonal ones as well. So awesome, love you. I will talk to you guys tomorrow and see you live on TikTok. Take care and have a great night.